The Rachel Maddow Show starts right now. Good evening, Rachel.
Chris, I am super excited about your Green New Deal town hall thing. That's
I am
awesome.
too. You know what? Here's a great detail. It's in the Bronx. It's in the hospital I was born in, which is in Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's district.
That is going to be amazing. That is the last Friday in March. That's Friday the 29th?
Yep.
Awesome.
29th.
I have to find out about these things watching TV.
That's how you get it.
Geez. You know, I work down the hall.
You're welcome to come if you want, although you got a show to do.
Yeah, thanks. Right. Thanks, man. Well done. Thanks to you at home for joining us this hour. We've got a lot to get to tonight. You can always tell that when my desk is already piled up like this before we've even gotten started talking about anything. But we're going to start tonight with something that arrived in today's news as a surprise. About a week and a half ago, the Washington Post filed a motion with the federal court in Washington, D.C. that was handling the criminal case of the president's campaign chairman, Paul Manafort. And that motion from the Washington Post called on the judge in the Manafort case in D.C. to release unredacted filings and transcripts from Manafort's case, so that the Washington Post and, by extension, the American people could get a gander at those documents. Specifically, the Post's motion called for unredacting a whole bunch of the court materials from Manafort's case that related to how he broke his plea deal when he repeatedly, and the judge ruled intentionally, lied to prosecutors. The motion also called for the release of an unredacted version of the sentencing submission about Manafort that was filed with the court by Robert Mueller and the special counsel's office. It was fascinating, the parts we could see, but large parts of it looked like that. So the Post filed to have all that stuff unsealed. And, you know, this is actually an important dynamic to watch. You know, today we got the public release of all these hundreds of pages of documents from the Michael Cohen trial, which we'll be talking about a little later on. The reason we got all these documents released today is because of a motion filed with the court by the New York Times. The Times asked the court to unseal all this stuff, which is why we got all this today, which is what drove the news cycle all day. In the Paul Manafort case, this motion to release all the stuff from his trial, it was filed with the court by the Washington Post. See, this is why you need to subscribe to more newspapers. They are doing good work with your money. Subscribe to your local paper. Subscribe to national papers that you read. Heck, if you've got the money to do it, give people gift subscriptions to those papers whenever it comes time to give a present. You will feel great about it. Your country needs you to do it. Half the news that we've got is stuff that newspapers dig up, but about another half of the news that we get is stuff they pry loose by other means. Anyway, in the Manafort case today, it's the Washington Post, and they're telling the court, please unseal all this stuff from Manafort's case. So the judge, when she got that motion from the Washington Post a week and a half ago, she set a deadline for the prosecutors to respond as to whether they had any objections to unsealing that material, whether they wanted the judge to continue to keep under seal all the redacted stuff about what Manafort lied to the prosecutors about and how they wanted Manafort sentenced because of it. The judge set that deadline for Mueller's office to respond as Thursday. So the day after tomorrow is their deadline. Surprise, Mueller's office today warned the judge that they don't think they're going to be able to make that deadline. And do you know why? This is amazing. This is what they said today. Quote, on March 7th, the Washington Post filed a motion under Local Criminal Rule 57.6 for public access to certain unredacted records from United States v. Manafort. Specifically, the motion seeks unredacted versions of filings and hearing transcripts related to this court's determination of whether Manafort breached his plea agreement and the government's unredacted sentencing submission. The government's response is presently due on March 21st, 2019, day after tomorrow. The government respectfully requests an extension of time to respond to the motion through and including April 1st. So they want to be extended to a week from Monday. Why do they want this extension? Quote, the counsel responsible for preparing the response face the press of other work and require additional time to consult within the government. The counsel responsible for preparing the response, they face the press of other work. You do? Tell me more. I mean, this is the special counsel's office saying this. It's signed on behalf of Robert Mueller by Michael Dreeben, who's the top appellate lawyer on the Mueller team, also by another lawyer named Adam Jed. What is this press of work they're facing right now this week that prohibits them from getting a motion into this judge by 2 days from now as it pertains to unsealing stuff from Manafort's case? And why would filing the special counsel's motion on that subject require, quote, additional time to consult within the government? I mean, at a surface level, I don't think anybody much cares about whether we're going to get the Mueller team's response about unsealing all of Manafort's stuff by Thursday of this week or by April 1st, which is a week and a half from now. I mean, this filing today from the special counsel's office, in fact, says even the Washington Post doesn't mind about this delay at all. They consent to this delay as well. But why is the Manafort team peeping here, really for the first time, about some crush of work that they're facing right now this week? Why are they peeping to the judge right now about consultations they need to pursue within the government on this matter? Consultations that will require more time. I don't know. And neither do you. But we can figure, I think, a little bit of this out from context. Again, this whole thing, this whole motion filed by the Washington Post is about whether the court will make public some of the stuff that has been redacted and sealed in Manafort's case. We know from the wrangling over this issue in Manafort's case that when prosecutors told the judge this stuff needed to be redacted or sealed in the first place, they said it was because these particular parts of these filings and these particular parts of these courtroom discussions had to be kept from the public because they related to ongoing investigations and individuals that had been not charged, or at least that hadn't been charged yet. Now, we know from context that the sealed material in question relates to Manafort's lies to prosecutors. And we know from what we could see in his trial about that what Manafort lied to prosecutors about included his interactions with the guy who handled polling for the Trump campaign. We know that Manafort lied to prosecutors about a large payment he received from the Trump campaign pollster. We know Manafort also lied about his communications with a Russian guy who prosecutors say is tied to Russian intelligence. We know Manafort also specifically lied about providing complex internal polling data from the Trump campaign to that guy linked to Russian intelligence while the campaign was underway. Well, now today, in a surprise, the special counsel's office says before it can tell this judge whether information on those matters can be unsealed, they're going to need more time. They need more time specifically to consult within the government as to whether these matters can be unsealed. And also, they're just going to need more time because right now, this week, between now and 2 days from now, they are crushed with a ton of work. What work? I mean, it's interesting to see them make this public-facing argument. We've never seen them say anything like this before. I find this super intriguing. I also know that we're going to need some expert help to try to figure it out, so we'll have that ahead on the show this hour. But I have to say, this is particularly surprising and particularly intriguing news because of all the mixed signals we are getting right now about whether or not all these Russia-related investigations are coming to an end or not. I mean, you have probably seen the headlines over the past week or so about some of the prosecutors and lead FBI agents who have been working for the special counsel. They're now leaving the special counsel's office and they're taking new jobs. Well, that sort of seems like maybe the special counsel's office is pulling up stakes and wrapping things up. On the other hand, you probably saw the headlines today about the hundreds of pages of Michael Cohen case materials that were just unsealed today, in which, among other things, the redactions in these documents in particular make it seem like there really is some central key stuff that came up in Michael Cohen's case that isn't over, that doesn't appear to be resolved by Cohen going to prison, and that may involve other people who, as far as we know, haven't been charged thus far. And we'll have more on that coming up this hour as well. But there's one other piece of this. I mean, along these lines, amid all of these mixed signals we're getting, that things definitely look like they're wrapping up, and these other signals we're getting that make it seem like things definitely aren't wrapping up. There's one other thing going on right now that I think informs our sense of whether or not this thing is coming to an end. And it's not something that has been getting much attention yet, but to me, at this point, this is something that is jumping up and down, yelling, look at me, and I think it deserves a little more attention. In all the work that has been done so far by Special Counsel Robert Mueller, for all the indictments and the court filings and the plea deals and the statements of the offense and all that stuff, for all of it, if you think about it, we haven't had much courtroom action, right? I mean, there's been lots of hearings before judges and stuff, but in terms of actual litigation with a jury and a defendant and everything, that's only happened once. We've only had one trial so far. That was when Paul Manafort took his case to trial in federal court in Virginia. Didn't work out well, right? Manafort got convicted there. That's part of why he is now starting his 7+ year federal prison sentence, regardless of what happens with the unredactions or not in his case files, which is still a matter of dispute in the court. But Paul Manafort, his trial, that's the only trial we've had in this whole scandal thus far. That said, another one is coming. The second trial from this whole saga, the one, it might not happen, might fall apart. There might be a plea deal. They might drop charges. You never know. But right now, what appears to be coming as the second trial for this whole scandal, for all of this stuff, is another trial that's going to happen in that same federal district court in Virginia where Manafort went on trial. It's the case against this guy, a Trump transition official named Bijan Kian. He's charged with conspiracy and with secretly and illegally operating as an agent of a foreign government in this country. Again, his name Bijan Kian. He's not a famous guy. What he's known for is having worked with the consulting firm of Trump National Security Advisor Mike Flynn. In court papers, in fact, Flynn is described as having participated in some of the same criminal schemes for which Kian is now being charged and for which he's expected to go on trial this summer. But Bijan Kian isn't just an associate of Mike Flynn. Kian also did go on in his own right to get a really high-ranking gig in the Trump transition. He was on the landing team for the Trump transition at the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Remarkably, his LinkedIn page is still up today, even after he's been indicted and he's got a trial date. And it still has his Trump transition title. Quote, Presidential Transition Team's Intelligence Community Deputy Lead. According to the Associated Press, the responsibilities associated with that Trump transition job included Bijan Kian taking part in, quote, sensitive hiring and policy discussions involving U.S. intelligence. Those sensitive decisions included, quote, scrutinizing then Congressman Mike Pompeo before Pompeo was named Trump's CIA director. So that means this guy was serving as a senior official in the Trump transition, working on intelligence matters. Among other things, in that role, he was helping select the next CIA director, while prosecutors say he was also, allegedly, at the same time, illegally serving as a paid secret agent of a foreign country. Oh, what could possibly go wrong? Well, now, as that guy's case is heading to trial in July, now, the reason that Mike Flynn still hasn't been sentenced, the reason his sentencing has been delayed for another couple of months at least, is because Flynn might be done cooperating with the special counsel's office, but he is still working with prosecutors in this case against Bijan Kian. Mike Flynn is due to be a witness for the prosecution against his former business partner, against Bijan Kian, this summer in the Eastern District of Virginia. And that is turning out to be a very newsy, very interesting little sticking point in terms of the way all of these cases are wrapping up and the way all of these guys' ultimate fates are being decided. Because the Bijan Kian defense team, by rights, under the Constitution and under federal trial procedure, they get access to any evidence the government plans to use against their client. And in this case, it seems like quite a lot of the evidence the government plans to use against their client is going to come from Mike Flynn. So now Bijan Kian's defense team is mounting this stand in federal court, which I think deserves a little more attention than it's getting, because what they're demanding of the court is that they get access to everything the FBI and the special counsel and all of these other prosecutors have obtained from Mike Flynn since Mike Flynn started cooperating with the government. And that's a lot of stuff they want access to. I mean, Flynn has been cooperating since 2017. The FBI produces a formal record every time they do an interview with a subject or a witness or a cooperator, I guess. In Flynn's case, there are apparently at least 19 different 302s from the FBI. specifically about Flynn, because he has been cooperating with them for so long on so many different things. Kian's defense team wants all of those. They want the ones that relate to Bijan Kian's case directly and the illegal lobbying work for the nation of Turkey that he's charged with. They want everything on that subject matter. Naturally, that makes sense. But they also want everything else. They want the whole universe of everything that Flynn has said to anybody from the government, including the special counsel, since he became a cooperating witness. And they had a big fight about it in court on Friday. We have obtained the transcript of that. I'll read you a little piece of it. Quote, from the defense lawyer, quote, "Your Honor, this is not an ordinary case by any means." The judge, right. Kian's defense lawyer, "The Office of Special Counsel has disclosed that they've interviewed Mr. Flynn, who's the key witness in this case, 19 times. If you add to that the interview that led to Flynn's prosecution, that's at least 20, probably more than that. Quote, the reason that we are here before the court is that Mr. Kian has a great deal of work to do to put together a cross-examination of Michael Flynn that is effective. This is not simply asking the witness if he's got a conviction. Was it for a false statement and then sitting down? There's a great deal there. And in order for us to be effective, Your Honor, we have to understand what it is." So that's the defense team pleading to see everything Mike Flynn has told prosecutors in the special counsel's office. Then the prosecutors get up in court to make the opposite case, to tell the judge that, "Judge, listen, there's no way we can let people see all that information we've gotten from Flynn." Even opposing counsel in representing this defendant who's on his way to trial, even opposing counsel, no, they can't see all the stuff that Flynn has given the government. It is just too sensitive. It's about cases that are still ongoing. Prosecutor, quote, "Your Honor, we're not trying to hide the ball here at all. In addition to all of General Flynn's 302s having to do specifically with this investigation, we're also willing to produce redacted portions of any 302 of the generals, of General Flynn's, that were collected or made in the course of the special counsel's investigation that do relate specifically to this case. Your Honor, we do draw the line, though, at a fishing expedition into everything else that the special counsel might have been investigating. And of course, it is a sensitive investigation, and also there are pending investigations that concern the subjects that would be revealed by an unfettered review of his 302s. What we are objecting to is a frolic through everything else that the special counsel's office produced in connection with entirely unrelated matters." So we've only had one trial so far from Mueller. This is likely the next trial that derives from the special counsel's investigation. Mike Flynn is going to be part of it. He's apparently the key witness against the defendant in this trial. Mike Flynn's cooperation has been extended. His sentencing has been delayed again, in part because of his role in this trial. Because he has a role in this trial, the defense wants access to everything Flynn has said as a cooperating witness. The prosecutors are saying, no, 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 no way. Flynn's cooperation involved matters that are still pending investigations, stuff that's still live. Now, that's where it was with this pending Kian trial and the fight over Mike Flynn's information. Now it's getting to be even more dramatic, because now Bijan Kian's defense has sent this letter in relation to this fight in the government. They've sent this letter to the U.S. Attorney's Office, to the prosecutors who are handling this matter. And this is sort of their next offer. Say in this letter, basically, well, if you won't give us everything, if you won't show us everything Flynn has said to the government, at least give us everything you've got on Flynn on these 8 specific matters. And they lay out all these things that they want information about when it comes to Flynn, and Flynn allegedly lying, and Flynn sort of bad behavior, and Flynn behaving unethically. And in that list of bad behavior by Mike Flynn that they say they want information about, they reveal a brand new allegation that I don't think we've ever heard before. Do you remember that weird meeting in the Seychelles Islands with Erik Prince? Do you remember that? Washington Post broke the news of that meeting just a few weeks after Trump was inaugurated. The story they broke was that during the transition, there had been a secret meeting in the Seychelles Islands at this luxury resort between Erik Prince, the founder of Blackwater, big Trump donor, the brother of Education Secretary Betsy DeVos, a meeting between him and a Russian guy close to Vladimir Putin, who's the head of a Russian state-controlled investment fund, a guy named Kirill Dmitriev. The Washington Post first disclosed the existence of this meeting just a few months after it happened in April 2017. They described that meeting as part of an apparent effort to establish a back-channel line of communication between Moscow and President-elect Donald Trump. Now, Erik Prince publicly contradicted that, right? He gave denials in which he said, yeah, he took that meeting, but it was just him being a private businessman. His presence there and his taking that meeting had absolutely nothing to do with the incoming Trump administration at all. He told the House Intelligence Committee under oath this was just a chance encounter over a beer that took place on the sidelines of some totally unrelated business meetings he was having. Prince told House investigators, quote, it was a matter of, hey, while you're here, there's a Russian guy that we've done some business with in the past. It would be interesting for you to meet him. Except, as it turns out, that doesn't appear to be true. A year after its initial reporting on that meeting in the Seychelles Islands, the Washington Post was still developing the story further, reporting this time last year that Mueller was investigating this matter. And, quote, a witness cooperating with Mueller has told investigators the meeting was set up in advance so that a representative of the Trump transition could meet with an emissary from Moscow to discuss future relations between the countries. And there's always been this mystery surrounding that meeting and what may have been discussed between Erik Prince, with his links to the Trump campaign, and this high-level emissary of the Russian government, particularly because it appears like Erik Prince has been not telling the truth about that meeting for some time. Well, now we have a new piece of it in a new filing in the Bijan Kian case, which suggests that that Russian guy close to Putin running that investment fund, he wasn't just randomly having a beer with Erik Prince. Erik Prince might, in fact, not have been the only person from Trump's campaign to have had secret contact with him during the transition. As part of this effort to get discovery in the Bijan Kian case, Kian's lawyers now say in this letter that they want more information on, quote, Mr. Flynn's contacts with Russian officials, including Kirill Dmitriev, following the presidential election in 2016. Mr. Flynn's contacts with Russian officials, including Kirill Dmitriev, after the presidential election in 2016. Trump's national security advisor had contacts with that guy too? The money guy close to Putin who everybody's been lying about talking to? I mean, we've never heard this allegation before. I mean, we know that Dmitriev went out of his way to publicly praise Mike Flynn during the transition. He praised him for Flynn's willingness to have an open dialogue with Russia. But as far as we can tell from public reporting, there were never any known contacts between Mike Flynn and this Russian guy. There were never even any public allegations that they had had any contact. Now, I should say, this is just an assertion by Bijan Kian's lawyers in a criminal case. Asserting it is not the same thing as proving it in court. They might be wrong. We may find out further in these trial proceedings, or if they try to bring it up in court, that this is something that isn't true and they're just blowing smoke. But if it is true, if Trump's incoming national security advisor was also meeting with this guy close to Putin, who's this money guy for the Russian investment fund, who was also meeting with Erik Prince, and Erik Prince wasn't exactly forthcoming about that when he was asked about it, even under oath. I mean, if this is true, this is a whole new element of the Trump-Russia scandal we didn't know about. This is a whole new contact between the Trump campaign and the Trump transition and the Kremlin that we didn't know about before. Why would the Trump transition at the highest levels be secretly communicating with the guy who runs Russia's sovereign wealth fund for Putin? We reached out to Bijan Kian's lawyers today to try to get clarity on this bombshell assertion. We haven't heard from him. Mike Flynn's lawyer declined to comment to us on this matter today. But if this assertion is true, this would be a whole new kettle of fish, right on the central issue that the Mueller investigation is supposedly all about. And it arrives today, at a time when we keep hearing there's definitely no more fish in any of these kettles. It's definitely all coming to an end. It's definitely all wrapping up. I mean, with all this new stuff coming out now, it really doesn't feel like it's wrapping up. But stay with us. Lots to come tonight.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.